Hi, I'm Dempsey Palat, and this week I'm reviewing... Now before we start off, as always, I just want to take a quick second to remind you guys to make sure you hit that like button if you like today's video, and if you're new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button as well for more new movie-related content weekly. But, without further ado, let's jump into today's film. American Skin was written by, directed by, and stars Nate Parker as a former vet whose son dies at the hands of a cop. Now, after the cop is acquitted of all charges in court, though, he decides to take matters into his own hands, storming the precinct with both an arsenal and the intent of giving him a retrial in front of his fellow officers with a jury consisting of convicts. Parker previously wrote, directed, and starred in 2016's Birth of a Nation, which, despite critical acclaim, had a pretty disastrous release, mostly due to the fact that sexual assault allegations from his past had resurfaced at around the same time. And while I didn't think he'd ever be able to recover from that, 5 years later he apparently has. And he's back with a film that I genuinely think is going to be a conversation starter, in a good way. If I'm being honest, I really liked this film. It's not perfect, and I will talk about some of the problems I had with it a bit later, but even with its problems, there's still a lot to admire here. First and foremost, Parker's direction is easily one of the film's strongest aspects. He has this ability to evoke emotions out of you through a single shot. And it's not just with what's in the shot, but how long he lingers on it at times. It's something that I also admired about Birth of a Nation, and it's probably the most consistent quality between the two films, but it's especially effective here. I also really liked the writing in this film. However, if I'm being honest, I must say that I think the dialogue shines way more than most of the characters that say it. And I think the best example of that is in the courtroom sequence at the heart of the film. In it, there are so many really great exchanges about things like racism and police brutality, and they really hit the nail on the head in regards to those issues. And they really do encapsulate the anger that I think people have about those things. I think that that sequence really gives you some really great insight as to where Parker's head was at when he was crafting this film. And more than anything, I think it really articulates the message that he wants the whole world to take away from this film perfectly. Don't get me wrong, there are some really great characters in this, but most of them aren't as fleshed out as they should be. And some of the ones that you'd expect to play a larger role don't. Omari Hardwick's character is probably the best example of that, just because he's easily the biggest name in this film and his character has such a huge setup, yet for a vast majority of the film, he stays in the background. It's very anticlimactic. Now, in terms of story, if I'm being honest, above everything else, I really loved this film's plot. I think it was such a great idea for a film. Personally speaking, courtroom dramas are a bit of a guilty pleasure for me. 12 Angry Men just so happens to be one of my favorite films of all time. So to see Parker take the genre and turn it on its head was fun. But at the same time, I feel like he kind of fumbled it a bit by trying to be too ambitious. Because in addition to this film being a courtroom drama, it's also a found footage film. Now, this isn't really a spoiler, but the entire film is a project being put together by a college student who's interviewing Parker's character. And that was kind of another issue that I had with this film. Unrealistically, this kid and his camera crew get dragged along for the siege inside the prison, but they just keep recording it. And as time goes on, it becomes harder to distinguish what's supposed to be part of the documentary and what's not, because naturally shots change, scenes change, perspectives change, and there are even moments, sometimes intimate moments between characters, that realistically you know the camera would not be there to capture. So it becomes increasingly difficult to buy into the idea that the whole thing is supposed to be a part of the documentary, or the whole thing is a documentary. I just found it to be such a weird choice for the story to be framed that way, when it honestly could have been stronger without that extra sense of awareness. But that also ties into another issue that I had with this film, and that is the fact that even though it's very honest about what it is, at times it can be too on the nose, and yes, there is such a thing. Probably one of the best examples I can give is early on in the film, Parker's character is having the police talk, if you know, you know, with his son in a flashback, and his son's friend via a video chat on his computer, and the entire conversation is framed from the perspective of his son's friend's computer screen. And in addition to the video chat window, we also see a web tab in the back, and it's literally just the Wikipedia page to the Black Lives Matter movement. So Yeah, that's exactly what I mean by being too on the nose. There's also a moment towards the end of the film where Parker's character looks directly into the camera, which is supposed to be the camera of the kid shooting the documentary, and says something to the effect of, I want the whole world to see this. It's things like that that I feel are so tongue-in-cheek that they take away from the film's overall goal. One thing that I didn't mind that I actually do think audiences will is the ending. It's certainly an ending that can make or break this film for most people. But regardless of what you think about it, you can't deny that it only punctuates the film's meaning. Now, American Skin is something that I think everybody should see, but only for what it has to say about the country's current racial climate. Because even though it has so much going for it, that's easily its best feature. And because of that, I'm going to give this film 3.5 stars.
You scared? Are you afraid?
Guys, thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to view this video. It really does mean the world to me. And once again, if you like this video, please make sure to hit that like button. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button as well for more new movie-related content weekly. Now, if you happen to see this film, if you loved it, if you hated it, let me know what you thought about it down below in the comment section. I look forward to reading and responding to all of your comments. Now, that is just about all the time that I have for you guys today. As always, be on the lookout for more new content shortly. I have plenty of stuff that I'm currently working on that I'm very excited to share with you soon, but you're just going to have to wait. And in the meantime, I should just probably get back to work, right? So, until next time, I'm Dempsey Pallot. Take care.